Let's move on to question number 3. So let's see. What is your go-to framework or way of getting multiple stakeholders to agree on a unified strategy without like watering anything down? Because in my experience and in observation of what you do, a lot of our customers and prospects, they have many people who influence what happens on the trade show floor. So how do we navigate that nuance?
Ooh, it's a nuance to navigate. That is for sure. It's a part of it again comes down to strategy and then it just moves forward from there. So,
Yeah.
what's ideal, of course, if there's multiple stakeholders is to get everyone in the room.
Right.
If we
Yeah.
can all be in the room, lock the door, don't let anyone out until we all agree, like that's a great way to do it. But also just having a process really helps.
Right.
If you can say, all right, we're going to start here and the end game is here, and here's the path we believe to getting there.
Right.
And if you can get at least most people to buy into that, I
Mm-hmm.
think that's what really helps. I mean, we have our
Yeah.
own process here that just kind of lets everybody know this is how we get from A to B. And we are happy to, pivot here or there and be accommodating, but the end goal should be the same. And if we can follow this process, it might be the
Yeah.
best.
No, yeah. It's like kind of getting everybody rowing in the same direction, and without a process, I could imagine that it'd be like herding cats, just trying to wrangle a bunch of, strong opinion people who are likely vying for the best interest of the event or the end game, whatever that is. But without a process, I can imagine it's hard.
Yeah, no, it is. And, it's also dependent on who the person, like sometimes you have the account manager who's responsible for just the herding, but then there's the designer or the creative team that's there and
Yep.
they're going to have their own ideas and not have any idea what anything costs. And then there's the CFO who's only going to care about what it costs and not about what it looks like. So it is a tough thing to navigate. That's something that we're proud of though. We really design to budget and budget to the design
Yeah.
as best we can. So, and that's a great thing about like the rental process is,
Yeah.
you can rent something and it costs a lot more this one show, and then you're not beholden to using that again. So if you change your
Mhm.
mind or you want to do something different the next show, we can pivot that way easily and you don't have to worry because you don't own it.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah. Okay, so 2 more questions. All right. So how can marketing leaders audit their current vendor relationships? Um, yeah, and I think it's like we have found that sometimes people get intimidated by this switching of vendors. But if there's a way to audit that just helps provide perspective. So how do you suggest that prospects or, those who might be wanting something different, what's a good way or an approach for them to think about this auditing of their suppliers?
It's a loaded question. It's not an easy thing to take a look at, even yourself, and say like,
Yeah.
where am I struggling and where am I succeeding? It's not easy to do that. So it's also similar with your exhibit program. You just
Mhm.
have to start asking yourself. I think are people coming to my booth the same they were 2-3 years ago? Are
Yeah.
they interacting with us the same way? If they aren't interacting with us the same way, like what is that reason? Is it because our information is stale? Is it because the person that we want to talk to has evolved and we
Right.
aren't changing with the times? It's not like one question to answer, yes, no, and like, okay, great, we're moving forward. It's
Yeah.
are we stale? Are we not? Has they evolved and we haven't? Have we evolved and they haven't? There's all sorts of different ways to look at it. And we have our own, questionnaire that we can try to go through and
Right.
and talk to people about if they ever, wanted to really like try to hone in on it. But it's not just one size fits all. It's a whole task. I don't know. That's not the right
Yeah,
word.
and I think, I can imagine a lot of it boils down to how does this feel? Does it feel like it's working? Does it feel abundant? Does it feel successful? Does it feel stale? And then it's like from that place of like, it doesn't feel progressive or it doesn't feel supportive, on the supplier side, and just lean into the feeling. And then it's like, okay, well, that's a really good indicator, because if you walk away from a show and you're like, nailed it, that felt awesome, that feels really successful, it's likely that, auditing a program might not need to occur. But if there are any of those other feelings of, the stress or the stale, like you were referring to, that might just be a clue, right? That something needs to give.
Yeah, no, that's true, and that's actually one of my leading questions when it's with a prospective or possible client
Mm-hmm.
is, what is success? Like, we're popping some champagne at the end of the show. Why are we popping that champagne? And so that goes to the exhibit program, but it also goes show to show because every
Yeah.
show is different. So you might be popping champagne for one reason or some
Yeah.
red wine for a different reason, just because, it's a different show, different audience, different ROI.
Yeah, totally. I love that. Okay, so last question, and then we will have made it through the run of five. All right. When a marketing leader realizes their current strategy or campaign is failing to hit the mark and they are midway through the year, what is the framework for executing a smart and graceful pivot without like burning out their team or like wasting resources?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's again, not a one size fits all naturally, but,
Totally.
sometimes it is forcing yourself to take a step back and realizing, "Okay, my team is burnt out. What is the reason for that?"
Right.
And if the pivot is necessary, then you can talk to, either your current vendor, or if
Mhm.
you feel like maybe it's the vendor that's causing these issues, then you can start reaching out to others and just start asking questions. This is the way things are working now. Could it be better? Should it be
Yeah.
better? Or how
Right.
could we do it differently to stop the burnout or stop the money bleed or whatever it may or may not be that's causing some
Yeah.
stress?
It's interesting because I was talking to Sean, our CEO, and we have acknowledged change is hard. Change, there's really no ideal time. Maybe there are times in the year, and a mid year pivot may be like ripping off a band aid. But if you work with the right team, whether that's internally or, like you said, or externally, and you decide that it's important and you just do it, sometimes that's easier than sitting with something that's just going to agonize on and cause more damage in the long run than switching it up and changing the plan?
No, that's true. I mean, there's a little bit of fool me once, fool me twice type of situation where,
Yeah.
if you just keep getting fooled, then, it is on you at that point.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
change is hard. Of course it is. But also change is fun too.
Yeah.
It can be
Eh,
fun to exercise your creativity again and see what's possible.
Yeah. No, that's a really good spin. Well, on that note, my friend, thank you again for taking the time. Thank you, Reese.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.